Here we go. The February 26, 2019 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello is excused. Mr. Broth. Here. Mrs. Conley. Here. Chairman Delahanty.
Here.
Mrs. Draw. Here. Mr. Felder. Here. Ms. Cayley. Here. Mr. Mafucci. Here. Mr. Marinetti is excused. Mr. Morelli. Here. Mr. Rockow. Here. President Carbone.
Here. Okay. Will Legislator Morelli please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Are there any speakers signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to address the committee at this time? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the January 14th, 2019 meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Okay. The next item on the agenda is new business. Clerk.
Referral 19-0032.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, are we the only member county required to approve the blanket bond for the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council?
Through the chair, all of the member organizations make contributions for the bond. If the legislator clarify, you're asking if they have to have like a formal approval process, such as taking it to their legislature, or
so let me clarify then. So this is just for our portion of the contribution. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. This is for our portion of it, and I believe that all of the member organizations also have to approve the bond itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? See none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0033.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0034.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, who's responsible for drafting or creating this report?
Through the chair, the Department of Planning creates the land use report.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, is there an actual published report, or is it really just a set of data that we share with other entities?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's both things. So we share the data, in an Excel spreadsheet with GTC for their land use transportation model, and then the report itself is shared with a wide distribution list in the county.
Okay, and the report itself through the chair doesn't really does not include the data, just perhaps references it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there are extensive appendices that are part of the report that have all the data.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0035.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0036.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Felder.
Through you, Chair, to the administration, how does this program work?
Through the chair, could you repeat the question? It's a pretty generalization of how it works. You want me to go through the whole program?
Yeah, because it's, through the chair, it's pretty vague in terms of, it just says it looks to reduce homicides, but it doesn't say just a grant of research, but it says program participants, so I'm trying to figure out who will be in the program and how it's going to work, so we, just get an idea.
Through the chair, the Swift, Certain, and Fair program is a program that's part of our GIVE initiative, and this piece of it is the evaluation and research part of that program, which RIT will do a research and design that compares the Swift, Certain, and Fair participants with other participants that are not in the program to see the cost benefit of whether the program's working or not.
Let's go back. Through you, to the chair. What is the GIVE program?
GIVE is, I have to look it up here, what it actually stands for. Gun-Involved Violence Elimination.
Okay. So are there, through the chair, are there youth who are in the actual program or who are selected for whatever reason to be,
Through the chair, yes. It's targeted for individuals between the ages of 18 and 24 that have been convicted of a gun crime.
through the chair, so the goal is just to keep them from committing another crime with a gun or being victims of a gun crime? What is there? Do they go to seminars or is there any kind of, what's the interaction they have with?
Yes, through the chair, they are assigned to a much smaller caseload on probation, and the probation officers would have a very small caseload and dedicate a lot more time and effort into programming and whatnot that's identified that's needed to steer them in the right direction.
All right, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0037.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, the referral references the fact that there's a match from the Sheriff's Office, and we're taking the match of about $23,000 from 9603 seized funds. My question is, what is the current balance of the current assets in this account number, 9603?
Through the chair, I don't have that information. Can I respond in an email?
That'd be perfectly fine. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0038.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, do we currently utilize this tracking software that we're contracting with Benchmark Analytics for?
Through the chair, currently we are not using it. This is a new program.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, what is being replaced by this new program then?
It's not replacing any program right now. It's something that hasn't been done this way. It's been done manually in the past.
Oh. Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, I'm presuming then we'll save up quite a bit of employee time and effort then with the utilization of this program. Is that correct, through the chair?
Well, through the chair, I would hope there would be some savings, but key to this is giving us a tool to identify key metrics for human capital that we haven't had in the past. So some of these things aren't occurring right now, but we'll be able to do it in the future.
Well, it sounds promising then. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0039.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Legislator Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, I was at the Public Safety Committee meeting, and it was referenced that this has come to our attention because it hit a $20,000 mark, and therefore it needed our approval. And that brought to my mind, how many other contracts do we have out there that are significant, i.e., I would say more than a couple $1,000s, but below $20,000 that we are providing services for through the Sheriff's Office? Do we know that?
Through the chair, I can't quantify that for you right now. I can get you an answer. This contract, once again, was estimated to be much lower, but construction took quite a bit longer, and so it has led to more revenue coming back to the county as a result of it.
Thank you. I would appreciate knowing, though, how many others are out there through the chair, if that's possible.
I'm sorry?
Through the chair, I would appreciate knowing how many other such contracts we have going out there for this fiscal year, if that's possible.
Through the chair, and you're talking about revenue contracts?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0040.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion?
You're right.
Legislator Cayley.
It's really up there.
I
really.
saw you. I saw you.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you to the administration. I was sitting into the committee meetings yesterday and heard some of the responses, but could the administration please tell me when the guidelines actually changed?
Through the chair, regulations changed in the fall of 2017.
Thank you. And then they actually changed through the administration to what I'm looking at over on the wall? Maybe I'm on the wrong one. We were talking about public education.
Through the chair, this is a referral with regards to the state grant for solid waste and recycling.
Right.
Yep.
So, do you want me to repeat it, or?
Let's see, we're looking at the.
This is the, well, let me, this is the pictogram instructions for recycling.
Thank you. So, is this what we were looking at? Okay. Nevertheless, so the grants related to expenditures that we anticipated having in 2019 for salaries for our municipal waste and recycling coordinator, as well as materials and other efforts associated with public education through 2019. So the intent is to update the information that we share, we disseminate throughout the year. We have over 130 public education outreach events as well as major festivals. We also are updating our magnet. As you know, we have we have a whole suite of signage that's available to the public to use, businesses as well, available on the website, and that was updated with various graphics that are more representative of recyclable materials and those that aren't recyclable. And we want to update our magnet and other information we have to reflect that.
Thank you. And then through the administration, this is sort of a comment as well as, and I may have another question on this, but through the chairperson, I'm a little bit concerned because I heard very little about the changes in this, and then I was surprised when I saw them online when I went to look at them. And it's almost as if have so many people been recycling the wrong amounts that we have just contaminated the waste stream over the past couple years? That is a question. Thank you, through the chair.
Through the chair, no. The efforts at the county and at the state level is to recycle right. That's really the motto of the program, and to make sure folks have the information they need to know how to recycle effectively and correctly. What had changed was really how municipalities could receive reimbursement up to 50% for costs incurred with public education and outreach. That was really the change in regulation in terms of whether it was a 3-year look back on costs incurred or future expenses. This grant now, with the current regulations, requires us to submit what our anticipated costs are for the coming year.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but I guess through the chair, I find that the pictorial here is a little bit more confusing when it comes to certain things that you think might be recyclable, but they're not. I'm anticipating that we're now no longer looking for 1 through 6 in plastics.
Through the chair, as you probably know online, we've got a recyclopedia which has everything that is we regard as recyclable, also materials that are not recyclable through the curbside recycling program. In some cases, they're acceptable at the Eco Park. We want to make it very clear to residents on what they can and can't recycle, and if there's opportunities elsewhere outside the curbside program where they can properly dispose of the material so they can be recovered and recycled properly.
Thank you. And then through the chair, question to the administration, will there be a coordinated effort within the city to do this education?
Through the chair, we work very, very closely with City DES. They're part of the Recycling Advisory Committee. We share information between both organizations. As you know, they send their city sends their recyclables to our recycling center, so we want to make sure that they have information that they can share with their residents so that they can recycle right as well too. And so far I would say it's gone very, very well.
Thank you. And then final question, would you say that the majority of the stream that's coming in has not been contaminated? Or spoiled? I forgot which term they use these days.
Through the chair, contamination, and we work hard to reduce contamination because quality sells, and we want to make sure we have a quality product that can be marketed and that the materials that are in the mixed recycling stream can be properly separated and sold. And we have, I would say, at our recycling center, a very low residual rate in the single digits, which is well below what I would consider the national standard is. Anywhere from 15 to 20% is a national standard of, say, contamination. We're probably 6 to 8% would be approximately where our contamination rate would be. And that's expected, that there's materials that are going to get into the waste stream that folks might wish cycle. That's kind of the word we use. That people want to recycle, but it's not necessarily recoverable in our program. But overall, I would say that through the county and the city efforts, we've been able to really keep that contamination level very low.
Thank you. And then, I'm sorry, is there, through the chair, is there a record of, say, year to year that you could perhaps get to me out of meeting that would concur that?
Through the chair, yes, we can.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0041.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0042.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0043.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0044.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0045.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0046.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, this is in regards to 0046 and 0047, but I had to pick one. I noticed that Nadazi Paving and Construction LLC won both contracts, and my only question is there going to be any concern about the timing of these in terms of their capacity to complete both contracts? Through the chair.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, they did. These are the first two highway projects that they've been awarded. They have done several culverts for us in the past. The company has been in business for about 35 years out of Geneva. We did reach out to the owner, Mr. Jim Nardozzi, and they're very, very anxious, and they are gearing up with the full intention of completing both of these projects this year.
And through the chair of the administration, you're confident in their ability to do so?
Through the chair, yes, we are at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0047.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, the town of Pittsford recently completed an active transportation plan that's very pedestrian and bike-friendly. It's a great plan, actually. Is there any consideration of bike lanes in this construction, particularly from the park to the town?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we do work with the towns and with all of our projects, and in this case, the shoulder width that we would have proposed would have been 5 feet wide to accommodate the additional pedestrian and bicycle traffic that's likely to occur on the road. We widen them in cooperation with the town to 6 feet. It's not a dedicated bike lane because dedicated bike lanes then cannot be used by motor vehicles, so we are having a wider shoulder that can be used by all modes of transportation for the entire length of the project.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Through the chairman to the administration, when do you think this project will begin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the contract award, as it goes through the legislature, will be awarded this spring. A pre-construction meeting will be held, and all construction is anticipated to be completed by the fall of this year.
Thank you, and I'll let the town know. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0048.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0049.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0050.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, can a property owner refuse to sell an easement?
Through the chair, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. Could a property owner refuse to sell an easement for a project the county wishes to perform?
Through the chair, in concept, that is possible. However, we have not met that in this project.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, it's fair to say we didn't use eminent domain procedural law in this case.
Through the chair, we are using easements to gain access to the properties. We're not taking anything in fee, and we're following eminent domain procedure law.
Thank you. Well, my point being is that we did not have to utilize that because no one's refused to sell the property, correct? Or the easement? Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0051.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, same question.
Through the chair, we have reached out to each of the property owners in regards to the easements on their property, and we have not met with any negative connotations.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0052.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, the referral states that the contract increase is due to additional funding available. How is that additional funding identified in the budget?
Through the chair, the initial funding that was approved by this legislature last fall was for the grant, and then there were 2 legislative awards that we received, and some funding from the county, that all of which were rolled into this amendment.
So through the chair of the administration, you mentioned 2 legislative grants?
The state refers to them as legislative awards.
Legislative awards. And then you said county funds were also found as well. Is that correct, through the chair?
Correct. $80,000 of county funding in the 2019 budget.
Yeah. Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, where was that $80,000 found?
Through the chair, I misspoke if I led you to believe it was found. It was planned for in the 2019 budget that was approved.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it was found as if it was lost. I just meant to say where it was located. So through the chair of the administration, you're indicating that the increase of $53,000 or so is from is not from county funds per se. Is that correct?
The increase of $50,000 is a net increase. When we put it all together and redid the math, that is the total net increase. And essentially that increase is coming from the county funds that are in the 2019 approved budget.
Okay, and finally, then if that's the case, through the chair of the administration, from what budget line is those funds coming from?
Mr. Chairman, the legislator would have to look at Department of Public Health, Nurse Family Partnership, Fund Center 580305. It's a budget line for agency contracts.
580305?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Legislator Cayley.
So much, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, am I correct in that this is going to be used to cover travel, accommodations, and training?
Through the chair, this contract is for nursing services, for home visiting nurses that visit the clients for the Nurse Family Partnership Program.
So, following that line, through the chair to the administration, this is not for an added body nursing staff. This is just for expenses.
Through the chair, the net change of $53,000 would not buy us a full-time nurse. However, this $53,000 is going directly toward the contract that provides the nurses. So this really is not for educational expenses, travel expenses. This is for nursing time.
All right, thank you. And then through the administration, through the chair to the administration, since this doesn't represent a new hire of any sort, it represents services. Are we normally covering, if we didn't have this amount of funding come in at this time, would we normally be covering any overages that might be occurring with the current staff? Or would we not be taking on cases?
Through the chair, the budget of this program is complex. There's several funding sources, so it's a little difficult to answer that question in a simple way. I think the bottom line answer that you're looking for perhaps is when we have an increase in funding and we can use that funding to support an additional nurse or additional nursing hours, it might not be a full-time FTE. The end result of that is that we can visit more clients and serve more clients, visit more mothers and babies.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor,
Good
please
answer,
indicate
okay.
by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0053.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0054.
Moved by legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Bra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, the referral states that the purpose is to provide financial support to local health departments and individuals exposed to rabies. I'm assuming that does not mean that individuals exposed to rabies are receiving direct financial support, or does it? Through the chair.
Through the chair, they're not receiving direct financial support. They're receiving their treatment for post-rabies exposure. That treatment is being paid for, and the amount being paid for is that third-party insurance will not cover.
The amount that, through the chair, the amount that they would receive in terms of support would be like a third-party insurer, so they wouldn't actually have anything out of pocket. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Legislator Kaley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that same vein, if I could ask through the chair, has there been recently a point where we have not been able to fund 100% treatment of rabies?
Through the chair,
I asked that incorrectly, but according to what I heard, this, in most cases, a third party will pick up the additional cost of treating a patient. Do I have that wrong?
I would say that in most cases, the patient's insurance will cover a good portion of the cost, as long as they have insurance.
Thank you. And then through the chair, this is a personal ask only because I heard this on the news today. Through the chair to the administration, can you give an average cost of what a rabies series might cost at this point?
Through the chair, costs do vary depending on supply and demand, but if I were to give you a ballpark, it would be roughly $8,000.
Thank you. And the reason I asked through the chair is because today I was listening to the radio. There was a woman in Florida that was charged by the hospital for a course of rabies not too long ago, and she was charged $48,000. So I kind of feel good about having this plan here. So thank you. Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-055.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0056.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Legislator Felder.
Through you to the administration, in light of a particular issue we had to deal with last year with regard to one property that was seized for a very small amount of money, can you outline the steps that are taken to contact the homeowners, particularly the homeowners, the owner-occupied homeowners, to prevent these homes from going into foreclosure?
Mr. Chairman, in addition to the property owner receiving their annual tax bill dated the end of December, property owners received several notices from Monroe County regarding the payment obligation they have. Such communications would include mailings from Monroe County to each property owner who are paying their property taxes via installments. We send them a reminder that their installments are due. They will receive these communications in March and the month of April. Mr. Chairman, property owners also receive communications from Monroe County in the month of May or June regarding their continued payment obligation. So at least they received 3 separate mailings from Monroe County. In addition, during the summer months, staff within Monroe County's Treasury Office make phone calls to property owners who have not fulfilled their tax payment obligation to try and work with them to establish an executed payment agreement. Such a payment agreement would prevent a property from going into foreclosure. This particular referral, Mr. Chairman, however, is not about the foreclosure process. This is about publishing notice that the property owner has yet to fulfill their payment obligation. Notice of all the properties who have failed to meet their obligations are published in the newspaper on August 15th.
Legislator Kaley.
Through you to the administration. Mr. Franklin, you sort of answered part of my question. When we publish this list, where are we in the process of, if need be, foreclosure? How long is that timeline once this list is published in August?
Mr. Chairman, after we publish the list of unpaid taxes in August, the county will hold a tax certificate sale on August 20th. At that point, the property taxes are declared delinquent, and Monroe County retains interest in a tax certificate that we file with the county clerk's office. By law and by the Monroe County Tax Act, properties must be unpaid and delinquent for no less than 1 year before we are able to start the foreclosure process. Bureaucratically speaking, Mr. Chairman, Monroe County does not foreclose after 1 year, but realistically we foreclose approximately 2 years after the taxes are delinquent.
Thank you. And then through the chair, currently, if you're in delinquency or in foreclosure, what is the interest rate that is charged?
Mr. Chairman, our Monroe County Tax Act requires interest to accumulate at the rate of 1.5% per month.
All right, thank you. And then through the chair to the administration, some of these, we're looking at very small amounts in some cases, which I'm wondering if there's an explanation as to delinquent taxes of $159 and such. Could you explain that? I'm not saying that it's wrong through the chair, but it's just a small amount.
Mr. Chairman, without looking at a particular tax bill, of course, we cannot provide a definitive answer to that question. Very often, however, when you see small amounts on a tax bill, they often reflect the pure waters charges. There are certain expenses that just cannot be waived regardless of your taxability or exemption status.
Thank you. And then lastly, through the chair to the administration, does the county accept partial payments? I know that we have installments, I know that we have full payment, but if someone were to mail in the incorrect amount of the tax bill, is it accepted and then rebilled, or is it returned?
Mr. Chairman, Monroe County does accept partial payments. That is a primary crux of our desire to enter into payment agreements with delinquent property owners. The Monroe County Tax Act does require, however, Mr. Chairman, that the first installment payment be 25% of the amount due.
Thank you. And I will just say that I truly appreciate the fact that Monroe County does accept partial payments.
Legislator Felder.
To you, Mr. Chair, through the administration. So when the list is published in the Daily Record and the Rochester Business Journal, is that for the homeowners to see, or is it for investors or potential buyers?
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to be flip or rude, but this is a centuries-old law that I will step out on a limb and offer you my opinion that we publish this list of lands to shame the delinquent taxpayer into paying his taxes. Realistically, Mr. Chairman, if you want me to answer specifically as the question was asked, it's for the homeowners to be yet one more time notified that they have failed to meet their tax obligation.
Let me say to you, the administration, this is the crux of the issue when we talked about the publications that this body uses to publish information. If you're publishing information in two publications that the majority of the residents of Monroe County do not read, then I don't.
Yeah, I'm going to rule that this is not germane to what
The
we're
question
discussing,
we're
and we
talking-
certainly can have this discussion at another
Forgive me,
time.
as a member, hold on, as Mr. Franklin made an editorial comment, I'm just responding to
Right,
that
I
comment.
understand, but I've made my ruling, and we're going to move forward.
Okay, next question.
I move to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Okay. So that we have we're appealing the ruling of the chair, moved by Legislator Morelli, and we have a second from Legislator Baroth. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. I'm going to ask the clerk to repeat it for us.
A yes sustains the rule of the chair. Mr. Antello is excused. Mr. Baroth? No. Mrs. Conley? Yes. Mrs. Draw? Yes. Mr. Felder? No. Ms. Cayley? No. Mr. Mafucci? No. Mr. Morelli? No. Mr. Rocco? Yes. Chairman Delahanty?
Yes.
President Carbone?
Yes.
5-5. Rule of the chair is sustained.
How is the rule of the chair sustained? Wait a minute, in a tie, do we have an attorney in the room? In a tie, how is it that Mr. Chairman?
The vote failed to overrule the chair, is what we said.
Can you cite it in the charter? Mr. Chairman, I'm waiting for which section that a tie results in your majority deciding where the rules go.
Sure.
Through the chair, I direct you to, the rules of the body say when a matter is, our rules are silent, we refer to Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules, section 24 on, what's it, what page?
We do have the rule.
Okay.
Page 48, section 545-17, letter F states, a majority or tie of those present sustains the decision of the presiding officer.
Through the chair, that's also reflected in Robert's Rules on page 258 of the current edition.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? Legislator Felder.
To you, to the administration, do you think that publishing the list in the Democratic Chronicle or the city newspaper or another paper that actually ordinary people read would actually accomplish the goal of shaming the delinquent taxpayers into paying their taxes?
Okay. Legislator Felder.
That's.
Let's have a discussion, okay? I know where you're going with this, but this is not germane to what we're discussing right now.
It is. We're talking about publication
We
of unpaid
can
taxes.
have we can have this discussion at another time, but it's not
But
germane
with all due
to this
respect,
right
Mr. Chair,
now.
we're talking about publication of unpaid taxes. What else are we talking about here?
Through the chair, the evidence, as asked in this body previously by Legislator Haney, was there any noticeable and distinguishable difference when we stopped publishing in the DNC with regards to people paying their taxes as a result of being published? And the answer previously given was no. So, in effect, when we stopped it, it didn't have any appreciable difference.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. No. Okay. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ansel is excused. Mr. Baroth? No. Mrs. Conley? Yes. Mrs. Draw?
Yes.
Mr. Felder?
No.
Ms. Cayley?
No.
Mr. Mafucci? No. Mr. Marinetti is excused. Mr. Morelli?
No.
Chairman Delahanty?
Yes.
President Carbone?
Yes.
5-5, motion fails.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Okay, sorry, Mr. Rocco, I apologize. 5-5, motion fails.
Okay. Next item.
Referral 19-0057.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Legislator Draw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, regarding the interim tax foreclosure process, is the county obligated to foreclose on a property that has been in arrears for whatever the time frame is, so 1.5, 2 years? Are we obligated to go into foreclosure? Or do we have discussion?
Mr. Chairman, is the question, is the county obligated to hold a foreclosure auction?
No. Through the chair of the administration, I'll clarify. If we have properties who are in arrears for taxes owed for $1,000, we clearly have the option to foreclose on the property. My question is, if we have a property in foreclosure or in arrears for $14.40, for example, which we have a property on that list that owes $14.40, are we obliged to foreclose on that property or not? And if we are obliged, by what are we obliged?
Mr. Chairman, by law, there are only certain reasons that a parcel can be pulled from a foreclosure auction. It could be a bankruptcy has been filed. There could be an environmental condition where the state of New York has asked us to withdraw the parcel. There may be one or two other exceptions, but they're very specific, Mr. Chairman. If a parcel owes $14.40, and Mr. Chairman, I will accept that somewhere in this list there's a property owing $14.40, staff within Monroe County's Treasury Office will endeavor to work with the property owner to have that balance paid prior to the foreclosure auction.
So through the chair of the administration, the department takes a proactive approach to resolving those, particularly those small amounts of money, beyond what is normally the case for other properties.
Mr. Chairman, I would hate to answer with 100% certainty that staff will be able to resolve every single delinquent tax payment, but the staff within the Treasury Office does an excellent job working with our property owners to resolve these issues, especially issues as minor as $14.40.
But if failing that, through the chair, if that fails, then we are then obligated to foreclose at that point in time.
Mr. Chairman, for a property of $14.40, I would want to know the details of that property. If it is Chili Volunteer Ambulance, when I live in Chili, I'll pay the $14.40. If it's some California slumlord, we need a legal reason to pull this from the foreclosure auction, and I'm not going to pay it.
I guess I won't respond to that because it just goes down a certain road of, you know, your personal, you're making very non-objective decisions there. But leave it as it may. I do appreciate the fact that the county does make extra effort for those smaller amounts, and that's good. But in answer to the question, then I guess the answer is if the county doesn't wish to foreclose on a property, it can in fact pay the amount itself. Is that what you said? What you meant? Well, you meant that as a personal response through the chair.
Mr. Chairman, as a personal response, it would come out of my own wallet.
But the county can't do that, correct, through the chair?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
So at the end of the day, if the 1440 isn't resolved and a Good Samaritan does not show up, then the county is obligated to foreclose. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, unless there is a legal reason for us to pull the property from the foreclosure auction.
And that legal reason is restricted by what the state defines, correct, through the chair?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Cayley?
Chairman, through you to the administration, not to beleaguer this whole thing, but if we're dealing with a large property and it is going into foreclosure and it has a number of units in it, this is a hypothetical, I realize that, but I do have some concern on the larger properties that go into foreclosure, so through the chair, if you're not getting a response from the owner through the management, it's not being paid, we foreclose. If it's evident that it's a property with multiple families or multiple units, does the county take any responsibility to notify the residents of that property that their landlord is in arrears, thus making plans? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if a multi-unit building goes into foreclosure and the tenants have a lease with the landlord, the purchaser of that property has to honor that lease. Is the question, Mr. Chairman, do we notify the tenants within that multi-unit building about their landlord being in arrears?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we do not notify individual tenants within a multi-unit building that their property owners is in arrears.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? President Carbone.
Yeah, through the chair to the administration, wouldn't it be logical to assume if somebody owed $14 in taxes and they were going to have their property foreclosed on, they want their property foreclosed on, they don't want that property anymore? Wouldn't that be logical to assume that? That somebody would lose their property for $14?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure there are a variety of reasons why properties are in foreclosure. Anywhere from and including the property owner does not wish to retain the property.
Thank you.
Legislator Draw.
Table this, and I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I must advise you and this body that the foreclosure process is Monroe County's ability.
We can't. Okay. We have a tabling motion, which was moved by Legislator Draw and seconded by Legislator Connolly. All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0058.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Yes, through the chair of the administration, what is the remaining life on the bonds at issue here?
I'm sorry, Mr. Question. Can I please request that the question be asked again?
Yeah, absolutely. Through the chair of the administration, the two bonds that we are looking to modify, what is the remaining life of these other bond issues?
Mr. Chairman, it is 10 years.
So through the chair of the administration, they expire somewhere about 2029, correct?
Mr. Chairman, the final maturity is in 2029.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there any, Legislator Cayley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So backing off on my colleague's question, the bonds that are being refinanced, or wait, the refunding bonds that we're requesting to issue, that you're requesting to issue, they are for 10 years, or did I misunderstand the answer? Through the chair.
Mr. Chairman, the bonds to be refunded have a final maturity of 2029.
Mm-hmm.
The refunding bonds will follow the same maturity, so the final maturity will also be 2029.
Thank you. And even though they had 10 years out, through the chair, we'll be saving by issuing these bonds?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And then through the chair, could you give me an estimation as to what we're saving?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The savings estimate is a present value percentage of the refunded bonds, which is a typical measurement of savings, is 13.45% of the refunded bonds.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0059.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0060.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, I was wondering if we could have an overview of the project and the timelines for the construction, the anticipated timelines.
Certainly. Through the chair, we've been working in very close consultation with the Red Wings relative to the field. The fields generally have about a 10 to 12 year useful life. The field was last replaced in 2008. So based on direct input from the Red Wings, the players, the groundskeepers, and management, we felt it would be appropriate to advance a project to have the field replaced this year in time for at the end of this year, in time for the 2020 season. We work, again, closely with the Red Wings to assemble an engineering team that would be suitable and have the qualifications necessary to design the field. And this referral would give us the funding necessary to replace the playing field as well as to retain the engineer to do the design.
Thank you. And through the chairman, to the administration, can you talk a little bit about any reusing of materials that might be available to save the taxpayer some money?
Through the chair, the first part of the effort will be an investigation of the field, its condition, the soil condition, the drainage condition. We would have to replace the sod on top, but there's a gravel mix, there's a sand mix. There's an irrigation system as well as a drainage system. So we'll evaluate the system fully. That will allow the engineer to fully assess the level of reconstruction that's required. And to the extent that we can, we will salvage as much of the material in the playing field as we can.
Thank you, and through the chair to administration, what is the need for the drainage to be redone? Is there a problem with field drainage right now?
Through the chair, the Red Wings have observed areas that have not drained as quickly as they had over time, which indicates, again, the field is at the end of its useful life. It has roughly 70 home games a year and a number of other events that occur. And over time, the hydraulic conductivity of the profile of the soil is reduced, and so it doesn't drain as fast. We will investigate the drainage lines themselves to make sure they aren't compromised in any way, but it might just mean reestablishing, the gravel and the drainage layer within the drainage system itself.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, are Barton and LaJudas and Labella and Popley, are they going to be working with Major League Baseball to make sure that whatever is required under Major League Baseball, that we will follow those requirements?
Through the chair, the referral lists a number of firms, and the reason we need to do that is because those firms were part of the general engineering and term service contracts. What we're asking for is for this year to increase the authorization for the general engineering and term service contracts. Again, working closely with Red Wings, we are going to retain Barton and LaJudas, just one of the firms listed, Barton and LaJudas, to do the work. They were the prime consultant on the field redesign back in 2008. And again, working with the Red Wings, we had identified a number of nationally recognized experts in field design. And the firm that we intend to use is FTE Sports, and they've got 25 years of experience. Bill McBride, who's on that team, has 25 years of experience, and they've done a number of major league stadiums, including the Minnesota Twins, Nationals, Yankees, Cardinals, the Reds, Tampa Bay, and the Marlins.
So,
Legislator Draw.
through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. So I know you mentioned briefly that how the Red Wings were affected through Major League Baseball. Is there involvement a little bit more on this project?
Through the chair, we'll be working very, very closely with the Red Wings. Obviously, they're the tenant and client, if you will, our internal client. So obviously, they will have direct input throughout the process, working with the county team as well as the engineering team. The expert that would be retained, that we're working to retain, would work as a sub-consultant to Barton and LaJudas.
Thank you.
Legislator Mafucci, I saw your hand up before.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, just have a couple questions. Are we planning to borrow the $2.4 million? What would the term be? And do we plan to use any appropriated? Do we plan to appropriate any fund balance?
Mr. Chairman, we do plan to, at some point, borrow for this project. The term would be approximately 10 years, and no, we do not intend to appropriate fund balance.
Thank you.
Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, is there some concerns that the field's current condition is somewhat unsafe for players, and hence part of the reason that this needs to happen?
Through the chair, from input from the Red Wings, we've not learned anything that would indicate that the playing surface is unsafe in any way. It's really drainage and playability as well, too, in terms of the way the ball bounces and the direction the ball bounces.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chairman, isn't this part of the negotiations that occurred last year in which the Red Wings decided to stay in Rochester and renew their agreement at Frontier Field? Wasn't part of that we contributed a certain amount of capital improvement projects throughout the year?
Through the chair, indirectly, this has been an obligation that the county has performed in the past, and insofar as that, all items are subject to negotiation. When the contract was up, the parties decided to leave this as a obligation of the county. It's not clearly articulated, I think, in the lease per se. It just was left as the status quo.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the lease, though, it does require that the county contribute a certain amount of, let me rephrase that the county is required to make improvements to the facility, whether it's the field or the stands, anything. It is part of our lease obligation, right?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Most of those obligations are with regards to some fan amenities that we have been working with the Red Wings to address. I don't have the specifics of that at my fingertips, but just in general, you're correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. Briefly, when the field that exists now was installed, did the firm B&L, because I never can get the last name right on this one, did they give you a life expectancy when they do an installation such as this?
Through the chair, the first field, as you know, was installed in 1997 and lasted just over 10 years. At the time, I'm sure there was an expectation that the field would last that long, if not longer. And we were really waiting to get direct input from the Red Wings. Obviously, they're in much closer contact with the field and its performance than we are. And in this year, again, with input directly from the Red Wings, we decided it was appropriate to advance the project this year.
Thank you. And then through the chair, just briefly, I liken this, the way you explained it, to that of when we were working on the airport. Because we added on looking at the guts underneath the drive in front of the airport, where that, not drainage, but the pipe systems hadn't been looked at for quite some time because they'd been buried for quite some time. So to me, it does certainly make sense to not just replace the sod and the sand and the gravel and not take a look at the drainage issues, because you'd have to dig it up all again in probably 5 years or less. So it makes sense. We always hate spending more money on it, but it makes sense to do it this way.
Thank you. President Carbone.
I might have this wrong, but when the engineers get into this, if they determine that some of these layers are salvageable, could this estimate be less? Could we be saving money?
Through the chair to the president, that is correct. We're asking for the maximum amount that we expect to expend. If we're able to salvage various layers or piping and irrigation system, that will certainly reduce the cost of the project.
Thank you very much.
Legislator Connolly.
Mr. Chairman, I just realized it mentions in the referral that the project was considered at the Planning Board on February 14th, and I was wondering if the Planning Board took any action on February 14th.
Through the chair, was approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. And I guess I've got a question to the administration. You know, I've actually been doing some research into this, and I know in some colder weather climates, specifically I was looking in Green Bay, that they have put a heating system under the field. And I was wondering if that was ever considered in this case to help with the growth of the grass, and would that add a significant cost to the field?
To the chair, I'm not aware of such system. I imagine with our national expert on the team, we will look at all options, particularly for our climate. But the sod specification is one that's very specific to climates and the type of play action they expect to receive. So the growth and protection of that sod is very important.
And to the administration, once the current sod is removed from the field, will that have any other use, or is it too cost prohibitive to recycle that material?
Through the chair, Mr. Franklin has requested a lawn replacement with the new sod.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0062.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Legislator Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about the staffing at the Appellate Division. Approximately how many deputies are there every day?
Through the chair, currently there are 4 deputy sheriffs and 1 sergeant.
Thank you. And through the chair, what are the functions of the deputies on a daily basis at the Appellate Division?
Through the chair, the functions are the same as at the courthouse, providing security both for the justices, for the people entering the building, manning security entry points, providing security in the hearing room at the Appellate Division. So similar functions to that at the Hall of Justice.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, are the so when I enter the Appellate Division, I see 2 deputies by the magnetometers, and then I'm just wondering where are the other because they're usually not in the courtroom during oral arguments. Where are the other deputies stationed?
Through the chair, there's multiple locations they may be within the building, and including active patrol through the building. They may be on a break at the moment when you go in there, so it's not that the entire shift that all 5 people are posted at a location.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this? Okay. Oh, how could I miss you?
I don't know. But it's okay.
Legislator Cayley.
Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Through you to the administration, once this is signed and approved, since this is to be reimbursed costs from 4/1/18, how long would we naturally wait for that funding from New York State to come in?
Through the chair, I don't have that answer. I could get it for you. I know
Nice.
that the billing is done on a regular basis and the reimbursements are consistently received. I don't know that I don't know what that timeline is, but I could find that out for you.
That's okay, but then that would be okay. Through the chair, our reimbursements of these costs, are they you bill so you'll get what you billed for, and because it's so long ago, never mind. It's not important. Thank you.
Do you withdraw your statement?
Yes, I do.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0063.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, I have a few questions about the contracts we're proposing for IDEXX laboratories. I understand the benefit of adding in the on-site testing. My question regards the expedited reference laboratory testing, and the question is, will that expedited laboratory testing require additional fees, or is that included in the $35,000 amount that we're contracting for through the chair?
Through the chairman, all of those fees are included in the contracted amount.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, for what we anticipate this contract to cover, who with whom do we provide these services, and we get these services from?
Well, through the chair, I'm not sure I understand the question. IDEX is the company. Dr. Lewis will actually be doing the lab testing at the zoo.
Okay, so my question is, if we were going to require off-zoo property testing, which this anticipates, with whom will we do that currently, not with IDXX? Who do we do it with now, through the chair?
It's through the chair. It's a veterinary specialist of Rochester. It's a laboratory owned by Monroe Veterinary Associates in town in Rochester.
Thank you. And they did not respond to the RFP through the chair?
Through the chair, no, they don't meet the qualifications, the specifications.
Okay, fair enough. Then that's it then. Thank you very much.
Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. I'm a little confused, and that's pretty usual for me. With this contract, are we actually owning the equipment?
Through the chair, so it's a term contract. So for those 6 years, we essentially, as long as we spend a minimum amount in terms of testing, either for supplies or for external reference lab testing, they'll leave the equipment at the zoo, and then at the end of the 6 years, we own the equipment.
Thank you. You kind of dropped off at the end there, sort of like a rent-to-own. At the end, we own.
Through the chair, exactly.
Okay. Then the last question as to this is, do you have an idea through the chair what the life expectancy or the application lost that word, but the ability for the equipment to do what needs to be done going into the future without being outdated, that's what I was looking for. Is that appropriate for the amount that we'd be spending?
Through the chair, yes. We would spend the money for the testing anyway, regardless of whether we had the equipment or not. At the end of the 6 years, we'll own that equipment, and then at that time we can either, if it is outdated, we'll still continue to spend this money. So we'll look to renew a contract with new equipment, and that's part of the cool part about this contract and this company is that they'll continue to advance it. And then the equipment also has software that's a part of a major driver of it, so the equipment itself might stay the same, but the software will be continually updated. That'll make it last longer.
Thank you. And then through the chair, comment that doesn't always work with everything because depending on what the hardware is, the software may exceed its functionality. However, the last question I had was in terms of the equipment itself through the chair, is IDEX handling all maintenance on this and or supplies, or does that fall to the county?
Through the chair, there's a quality control that's on a monthly basis that we would do, the zoo staff would do for maintenance of the equipment that would be included within the contract for hardware problems or software problems too, I guess.
All right, so in answer of that through the chair, specifically IDEX would be handling the maintenance?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. What are we going to? Yep. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? Yep.
I would like to make a motion to please lift from the table referral 19-0057.
Second that.
Moved by Legislator Draw and seconded by Legislator Connolly. At this time, I'll have the clerk read what the motion is.
Motion to lift referral 19-0057 from the table. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ansello is excused. Mr. Baroth. Mrs. Conley. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Felder. Ms. Cayley.
No.
Mr. Mafucci.
No.
Mr. Marinetti.
No.
Mr. Morelli. Mr. Rockow. Chairman Delahanty.
Yes.
President Carbone. 6-5, motion to lift from the table passes.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, how is it possible that after a member has been noted for the purposes of the roll call at the beginning of the meeting that they are absent, that they now can excused from the meeting, that they can show up in the middle of the meeting and participate in the meeting? Is it somewhere in our rules? And if so, could that please be pointed out?
Sure. Mr. Marinetti is a member of this committee, and by being a member of this committee, he is entitled to vote on this committee. So him being here in the
after
chamber,
he was excused at the beginning of the meeting. Again, I'm asking for where in the county charter, in the rules of the legislature, that is where that is noted. If he was excused at the beginning of the meeting and is now here, how is it that he was then excused? Isn't the official role that he was excused from at that point no longer?
Sure, I didn't excuse Mr. Marinetti. I never signed an excuse for him at the beginning of this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, was he? I believe that the clerk of the legislature noted he was excused. So, is the president willing to go back on the tape and claim that the clerk of the legislature
Legislator Morelli, oftentimes in this body, whether it's a committee or often the full legislature, we all are juggling very busy schedules and always working to do our best
Mr. Delahanty, I'm not questioning where Mr. Marinetti was, Mr. Chairman. My question and my point of order was where is it in the rules? You are not referencing where in the rules it is. Other than the president has described that his grand power allows him the ability to do it. So I'm asking, Mr. Chairman, where in the rules does it suggest it?
Legislator Morelli, Legislator Marinetti is here, is present.
Mr. Chairman, he's clearly here. He's clearly president. My question is, on the point of order, where is it in the rules? You are not answering my question.
Is out of order.
And where in the rules is it stated that because he was marked, that he was excused, that it's now allowed to be in the, that his role is, his vote counts? Where is it in the rules?
He was not ruled by the president of the Monroe County Legislature.
Okay, but by the clerk, when we were all here and the clerk called him excused, now that's not the case. And you could tell me where in the rules that's the case.
Right. I'm ruling your point of order. You're out of order, and I'm looking to
yeah, and I'll appeal the ruling of the chair.
Okay.
Is there a second? We need a second.
We'll need a second on that. Legislator Baroth. And at this time, we're going to have a roll call vote, and I'm going to have the clerk read to us what we're voting on.
Yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, is Mr. Marinetti's his ruling is, or excuse me, his participation is going to be included. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So does it even matter at this point?
It's a non-debatable motion.
It's a non-debatable motion.
Mr. Ansello is excused. Mr. Baroth.
We're in a roll call.
We're in a roll call vote. So just keep reading the names if they don't answer.
Mrs. Conley. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Felder. Ms. Cayley. Mr. Felder, do you have a vote? Ms. Cayley. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Marinetti. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Rockow. Chairman Delahanty.
Yes.
President Carbone? 6-5, the rule of the chair is sustained.
Legislator Kaley.
Point of information, thank you. What is the legal responsibility of the clerk when he enters into the minutes that a legislator has been excused? Is the clerk saying excused when the letter has not been signed? And is that legal in this body? That is my point of information. I would like an opinion from the legal department. Do I need to repeat it through the chair?
Through the chair, we'll endeavor to provide you an answer in writing.
Thank you. Then, point of information, would we be able to take this up at the legislative meeting if your answer does not provide the correct legal process that should have been adhered to today?
I guess I'd ask the legislator, I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking, thank you, through the chair, that if we get the answer in writing, and I no disrespect, I'm sure it will uphold what happened here today. But if what the clerk has done, no offense to you, clerk of the legislature, if what the clerk has announced at the beginning and what the president of the body has said, that he did not sign the excusal letter, but there were 2 excusals tonight, if in fact that is not upheld through the legal decision that we will receive in writing, does this issue come back before the legislature? Because the vote would then be not legally cast.
Through the chair, yeah, that too, I'd have to endeavor to research that to provide an answer.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the main motion. Did we have a move? Okay. Do you know who moved second? All right, can you repeat it out?
For the committee, we have referral 19-0057, which was moved by legislator Draw and seconded by legislator Rockow.
Jack, or if you could repeat that again. Sure.
We have referral 19-0057, proposed in rem tax foreclosure action number 144, City of Rochester and Towns of Brighton, etc., which was moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Rockow, subsequently tabled with a motion from legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Conley, tabled with a 10-0 vote. Then subsequently, a motion to lift from the table made by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Conley, lifted with a vote of 6-5.
Okay, and at this time, I'm going to call for a roll call vote.
Yes, for discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Legislator Felder?
Sometime during the fall of last year, we were contacted by a homeowner over in the 19th Ward whose home was seized over, I believe it was late fees on her taxes of about $256. We tried all we could to get his home back. It appears that the home was sold along with a package of other homes to some investors. And when the woman called and contacted them, they wanted to sell her house for $50,000. The house she had lived in for over 20 years and paid it off and everything was seized for $256 of late fees. I believe the process that we use is flawed. We were told that no certified letter was sent to her to make sure that she had actually received notices. And we went back and forth, and I'm not blaming anyone in the administration because when I spoke to Mr. Napier, he was very helpful and very responsive. But I believe that we need to find a better way to make sure that people who have spent years in their homes and have sacrificed are not having their homes seized for small amounts of money, and they're being sold to investors who then will turn around and try to sell the person the house that they've already paid off for insurmountable amounts of money they obviously cannot make and cannot afford. And I think we need to find a better process for this to make sure that at least, now when it comes to the LLCs and the absentee landlords, I'm not concerned, but when it comes to owner-occupied houses, the people who have spent years raising their families and investing in those homes, we have to find a better way to do this to make sure that we're not running into situations where people's homes are being seized like that for those small amounts of money. And so that's the issue I have. That's why I have the issue with the publications and everything else, because I think that's all part of the same process. Because ultimately these homes are not winding up in the hands of small or ordinary people. They're winding up in the hands of investors. These LLCs, I can't think of I forgot the name of the group that bought the house, but they bought it with a package of other houses for a substantial amount of money. And we need to make sure that this is not happening. The homeowners are having their houses seized and being sold off to investors when they have sweated and paid the price to live in those homes and raise their families and do what it takes to accrue a measure of wealth in their lives. So I'm voting no on this motion.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. At this time, we're going to have a roll call vote.
Mr. Ansello is excused. Mr. Broth? No. Mrs. Conley? Yes. Mrs. Draw? Yes. Mr. Felder? No. Ms. Cayley? No. Mr. Mafucci?
No.
Mr. Marinetti?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
No.
Mr. Rockow?
Yes.
Chairman Delahanty?
Yes.
President Carbone?
Yes.
6-5, motion passes.
Okay. All right. There being no other matters, the February 26, 2019 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2019 at 6 p.m.